Welcome everybody back to the After Dark Show. I'm Don Rogers. Joining us again is a very interesting guest that I first ever saw on the Typical Skeptic. She is the multidimensional duck with the esoteric wisdom to really ruffle some tail feathers. And I'm just super excited to have her back because she's one of the most interesting beings that I've ever come across in my 47 years on this planet. So, without further ado, please help me welcome back to. Hold on, it's stuck. Ah, Psychic Duck.
Quack! Hey, everybody.
Hey, Psychic Duck, thank you so much for coming back.
We are back on track in this reality. I'm glad you didn't disappear since we last spoke. Because he could have
Yeah.
disappeared. Don't tell me.
Oh, there is some crazy things going on in this reality right now. I am absolutely, and I am just digging the sweater. I know you do have a typical skeptic sweater. What are you wearing tonight?
I'm just wearing my quartz and I'm being cozy. He's my little.
That's very nice. I'm not doing it tonight, but I do tend to do a lot of my interviews in my pajamas. I do the old anchorman thing. I look formal on top and just real comfy on the bottom. So, but not tonight.
Being grounded. I get it.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start off with what's new in the astral pond. How have you been, Psychic Duck?
Ooh, in the astral pond. I'll start with how I've been. I've been a bit tired, fatigued. I'm kind of like a roly-poly, just go into a ball and just stay there. Make sure nobody steps on me, though, when I rest, because that's a lot of times people try to rest and then people start stepping on them, and they wonder, should I be resting? And for those that have gone through that in March, the answer is yes. You're just surrounded by people that don't know how to go into rest and hibernation, so they poke your feathers. So that's that. But where do I go from here?
I'll jump in there. There is a lot of weird energies going on. Like, I don't know if it's solar flares or the Schumann resonance, but like, have you found the energy's been tiring lately? Like, I know Spinja and I, who is my interdimensional exit buddy, as we say, just seem to be getting hit with wave after wave of exhaustion. And I'm just wondering if that's something you've heard a lot of, or if you've been feeling it as well.
I would say yes, definitely I've heard a lot of. But I want to introduce an idea of, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like a lot of people are being faced with other versions of themselves in a sense that people that just don't honor where they're going. And I think a lot of them are just kind of rising out. They're sprouting out. It's like you're growing seeds and different things are sprouting out. It's attracting like all the moths suddenly with the light. And I kind of have an idea of what that looks like. I call it the straw man fallacy. Have you heard of that before?
No, but I'd love to.
It's when a person just tries to misrepresent anything you say and they make it an argument. So let's say you're telling somebody, I don't like it when you leave the dishes in the sink. This is just like a blah. I'm going to go PG-5. I don't like it when you leave the dishes in the sink. Please put the dishes in the dishwasher, wash your dishes. And then somebody just says his back at you, oh, you don't like putting dishes in the sink? What's wrong with you? What is this about? So that's the straw man fallacy. There's a lot of that happening, but in a very different, more adult-like way, if you can pinpoint that in your everyday life. There's a lot of that happening. And then there's all these false dilemmas where you're cornered into two options that are just not you anymore. I don't want to even engage in those options. So that's where it becomes difficult. They'll corner you, make fun of everything you say, and then they give you options and they know both of them don't work. And in the end, we're all peacekeepers, and we're peacemakers. So then we have to choose whether do I step on myself or do I find a way out? And sometimes it's hard to find a way out. And I feel like a lot of people are going through that. So that's why they're fatigued, because you don't want to step on yourself anymore. You know what that looks like, especially, with alcohol, like, okay, my solution is to step on myself and drink. And then 10 days later, the person will argue with me again. And it's a lot easier to swallow. I know what they're going to say next. I'm not blaming myself anymore, so I'll just go back into my, cave but we know how this ends now, so everyone is just tired and they're looking for a new way out. There's this, I'm not sure why Albert Camus is coming into my head, It's like there are those that accept others and there are those that leave others. I think I butchered.
I like
Whoa. So I feel like we're in a place where what should we accept and what should we leave? And it's hard. It's grief, it's heartbreaking. And there are people that we love. And oh, if they're not ready to change or allow us to be free, that's how you know, okay. Because when we love, we want them to be free with us, not be repressed with us. So, yeah.
I agree. I think one of the most important parts of that is something I was saying on a show yesterday as well, is the big thing is always be asking yourself, why don't I like this? Why is this affecting me a certain way?
Mm,
Why am I not comfortable with this? Because as soon as you start to do that, you do free yourself in a sense, because then you can identify your trauma or the situation that's bothering you or how the person is treating you. It works pretty much across the board as a problem solver, and it's such a simple solution that nobody really ever taught us, is
mm.
just ask yourself, why don't I like this? Why isn't this vibing with me? Why does this bother me?
You were never allowed to even ask these things. If you're a child and your mom's dragging you to Walmart, you cannot say, "Mom, why are we going to Walmart? Why are the lights so bright?" It's like, "Shut up, kid." You know? So that we
Yeah,
just learn shut up when somebody says that, and it's horrible. Yeah. It's like to free ourselves, like to be able to even ask a question. And when I look at it, this is just from people I've spoken to that had addictions. It's like a lot of times, the substance allowed them to think for themselves. Oh, I'm free to think now. I can just, without being disturbed, without feeling guilty, without feeling shame. That was definitely for me.
yeah. I've mentioned on the show before, I've suffered through multiple addictions, and it was always generally that. Like it really was just a way for me to be comfortable with myself, because
Hmm.
I've always been this awkward person that said what was on his mind and blah 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 blah. And it seemed with me in a neutral position while on alcohol or some other substance, it was just a more acceptable version of me, and the neutralized version of me that got accepted. It
Hmm.
was easier to be that person than how awkward it is being myself. And it's something I've had to adjust and come to grips with, and just be myself, because this is the version that the world needs, I think.
For everyone that feels guilty for being themselves, watch documentaries, whether it's, a person that died from an eating disorder or from addiction, and look at their family members. You'll see all the reasons why that person is dead. That's one of the ways I started to have compassion for myself. And a lot of times, those families are not even portraying that. They're trying to say, oh, addiction took my child. But when you really look at it, I'm like, whoa, this child died because you weren't there and you weren't there. And you were the, yeah, it's just, there's so many of them. And it's funny how people don't really realize they're a part of the problem. And that's the problem here. Like, we're willing to notice how we're a part of the problem, but others around us are not willing to notice how they're a part of the problem too. And I think that's the next stage of our journey, to all come together like that.
I
Yeah.
think so too. And when you have people in your community or even in a partnership like what I have, thankfully she was far more aware of these things than I was before any of this started. And now we're actually, like, as a tandem, helping each other heal traumas. Like, something will happen, and of course in every relationship there's an argument or a brief
Hmm.
ruffling of feathers, so to speak, and then we tend to come back to it once we've calmed down, and it's like, okay, why did this happen this way? What were you thinking? And this is what I was thinking, and when you said this, it made me feel like this, but what did that do? And it is a arduous process, but it's something I think we need to start doing as intelligent beings that do love each other. And I mean, across
Mhm.
the board, I love everybody that's on my show. I love everybody that hits me up on social media. I've come to a point in my existence where I feel it's far more beneficial for me to spread love than be judgmental and be a crappy person to people. But I really do think it's about that back and forth explanation of your feelings, because once you master the emotional frequency, you have mastery of life almost.
That's very true. Can they tell you spooky status? Like a spooky understanding that really spooked me out. There's a psychologist that said 90 or 80% of human behavior is motivated by being superior. It's really spooky if you think about it. It's like a person will like try to be nice so they can feel like they're competent in their job. It's like, like being superior. And when you're like in the heart space or you have an active heart chakra, those things don't even align with you. So we're dealing with people that are still in, overvaluing or undervaluing circumstances. And we're coming in and it's like, stop. I love you. Please stop. So I feel like, yes, a lot of us are awake and, people that are watching the show obviously are not in that mind state, but a lot of us have family members and we love them and they're just still into like, you're undervaluing me or you're not respecting me, you're saying I'm wrong. And it's like, no, I'm just saying right now I could pick you up or take you to the store because I'm tired. I know you don't care about me, I'm not important to you. She's like all about value and all that crap. And it's like, mom, please, I'm sorry. I have a headache. I'm tired. Nothing to do with
Yeah,
you. When we process things, sometimes it takes a week or two, and they don't understand that part either. It's like I'm sitting through things, and no one knows how long they need, and a lot of times it takes a month even to just sit through stuff. But then our family's like, oh, you didn't talk to me for a month. You hate me. I'm not important to you. You're like, God damn it. But people you love don't really, the ones that are awake don't see it that way. They're like, oh, you just need some space. Hey, I'm sending you love, sending you energy, bro. Tell me if you need anything. But with the everyday
I
normies, they're like, ugh.
that really resonates, and I've actually had some recent occurrences where people have cut ties with me because I'm non-communicative. Like I have a 9 to 5 job, I do this show, and I have a
Mm.
private life as well. And some people that I think misunderstood the nature of our relationship or whatever were very upset that I don't have time for them. And it's like, no, it's not that I don't have time. It's I don't think to hop on social media and text each and every one of the people that I love. Or I don't, I talk to some of the people that I've met in this community more than I talk to my own mother. And, it's not that I value them more than my own mother. It's just I have more to say to them, or I don't really say anything at all.
It's free. You feel free with those people. There's no obligation. There's no have to now prove to somebody something. You're just like, hey, here's a meme. Good night. Mm.
Yes, exactly. You can send me a funny picture and it'll light me up for the whole day.
Yeah.
Um, I want to ask because, we're about 10 minutes into this. Where
Mm.
does a duck gain such wisdom? Was it like gnosis, study? Is it channeled information? Where did you become so intelligent in the esoteric realm and really just in life?
I'm getting whisper it to you. Are you ready? Pain.
Oh,
Mm.
through pain.
Yeah. Mud. I told Don to write a song called Mud before we hopped on the show, everyone.
Yes, because I have
The
come up
mud.
from the mud and yes.
There's this song. Is it called? No, it's called "Dig" by Mudvayne. Never mind. I mixed them both. "Dig" by Mudvayne, and there's a part where he says,
Yeah.
"I'm going to put the rope around your head." There's this part in the middle, it's like "Dig, bury me," and all of a sudden he rises. Let me put the rope around your head. It's like he just was showing, hey, you know what? Let's all go down together at this point. And sometimes we need to find other people that have gone down that path with us too. It's coming from a place of anger, but there's a lot of strength in there. It's like, hey, I'm not gonna play your game anymore. Let me put the rope around your head. Come on, I'm gonna do it with let's both go down together. I'm not gonna bury myself anymore. You're not fucking changing me. And I think that's kind of one of the starts in communication is we choose not to change other people. And now that I've said that, other than pain, it's music. Music really helps. There's a lot of hidden messages in there. That's why there's this whole industry.
I agree, and that's actually something that I've been doing a lot of is like songs I've listened to for my entire life. I'm getting different meanings to them now because I'm looking further into the lyrics because we do tend to just listen to songs and bop along and really have no idea of the underlying meaning. So I think that's very true.
Have you noticed there's some songs like some people listen to certain bands where they get tattoos and certain bands where they go smashing and then certain bands when they're driving to work and then certain bands when they're going to sleep. Yeah. And then there's a song from your aunt's like radio show picking you up from school somewhere, Celine Dion, and you're like, God damn it.
Yeah. Do
It's so
you
weird how it
think
gets wired. Yeah, go for it.
do you think that that's because of our emotional frequency, why the music that we listen to resonates with us at sometimes but not the others?
That's a you put that really well. That's well said. Yeah. Yeah, that's well said. I'm glad it's recorded because I want to honor and repeat this word by word. I'll re-listen to this. Yeah.
I think that does make sense, yeah. Um, Recently you were on Typical Skeptic, and you touched on three ways of expressing energy, and I don't know if you have that right in your duck brain off the top of your head, but it was really fascinating, and I was wondering if you could
Mm.
get into that.
Yeah, ask me questions because I don't remember. It just, I guess it's a channel.
Well,
It happened.
no, and that's fair because I've happened too. Um, I guess one of the easiest, well, not easiest, most basic questions is how would you suggest that people keep their emotional frequency high? It was a question I was asked by a viewer the other day.
Hmm. Ooh, I have to go back to that time and space. But I'll tell you one thing right now. I can't. I'll speak according to the month. Like since we're in March and there's all this fatigue energy, and how do we repeat your question again? I lost it. Oops, brain fart.
How do you keep your emotional frequency high? Like
Hmm.
nobody wants to be sad or in low vibration. How do you keep your vibe high? What suggestions would you give the audience?
I I would ask first off, have you stopped cherishing yourself? This is dependent on March, everyone. Have you stopped cherishing yourself? Because a lot of times when you heal, you start to return back to other versions of you. You start returning to things you loved. And that could be just like kicking sticks. That could be even staring at the lake. So notice, like, have I stopped doing the things that make me feel me? And not necessarily alive. Those are two different things. Because sometimes just reaching that spot of being alive is so hard. I feel like a lot of people don't talk about caregiving, resentments. You're caregiving to someone that never cared for you, and then you're just sitting there and you have to, like, how do you be yourself and also give them love and understand they'll never understand you? Have you cherished yourself while you're being with that person? And that's where it gets tricky. I think a lot of us don't talk about that. And this is what I've seen happen. I'm saying this with love, everyone. People will judge me. The first thing that happens is people start splitting. And they split because they see the interaction as a game. And they don't even realize that they're seeing the interaction as a game. They think, oh, that's just how I treat my mom. And the minute you do this, the minute you abandon yourself. And I see this a lot. And then they start slowly disconnecting to, I'm not spontaneous anymore. I feel like I had vivid dreams. I had this, and now that's all gone since I've been taking care of my dad. Maybe I'm just tired. Maybe I need to rest. That's all true. But if you really want to be brave and dig into like the wormhole per se, notice who is the inner manipulator. Sometimes it could be, oh, let me get my mom to sleep so I can go out. That's a sort of manipulation. It's like, oh, let me just trick her into, oh, yeah, yeah. Is so and so here? Yeah, they're here. Okay, go to sleep, bitch. Yeah, you don't say that, but you get it. So it's like just noticing like that version of you. Who is that? And how did they develop? And what do they need from you? You're not, saying, oh, shoot, this version of me is here. I have become this. Oh my God. Yeah, it's like, yeah, they could have that reaction. Who have I become? Am I going backwards? Should I get a healing? Should I get this? I'll give you guys a shortcut. It's just notice that version of you. Be like, what do you see that I don't see? Because there is something that they saw that they said, I need to come in and do this for you. That's the thing about being multidimensional. Like, see yourself as an octopus, and you have all these like tentacles, and you're just one tentacle. And all of a sudden, there's this other tentacle that was watching through your eyes that showed up. And it's like being the manipulator, whether it's telling mom it's time for dinner when it's not time for dinner and force feeding her to sleep. I don't know. I've seen people do weird stuff. So it happens. When we're tired, we do the weirdest things that we never thought we'll do. So that's where you need to forgive yourself first if you cannot notice the inner manipulator.
I think that is great advice, and Rocks Girl here would definitely agree. She's saying you're spreading wisdom, and we do actually have an audience question. It's somebody you know. Boop. Selena Ingalls, I will read this verbatim. Does the duck ever feel like fuck this shit?
Ooh, every day.
Okay,
Every
don't
single
ask the duck
day, I
a question.
am what I am, and I am all of me. And there are days I hear kids riding their scooters, and I'm like, ugh, F this shit. And then I just smile. And here's the thing about, let's say you're meditating. A lot of people, they start seeing the inner monsters. You hear people, they're like, I want to be deep. I want to be this. And actually, that recently happened in a reading. I want to be deep. I want to be that. And I decided to joke with them, like, you're not looking to be deep. You're looking to be spicy. You want to meet the spiciest version of you. And they're like, what? And they're like, oh, maybe. I'm like, if you want to be deep, you're going to meet monsters. You're going to meet leeches. You're going to see parasites. This is not fun stuff. Like, don't trick yourself. And there are ones that want to go deep. Like, I remember in 2012, I'm like, I'm going in. I hate everything I've become. Let's see how worse could it be? There is that. But yeah, like, like the thing about meditating when you're allowing, you have to allow this thought to pass through. Don't hold on to it like it's a chocolate muffin that you'll never get again. When you go, they're like free muffins, and you're like, oh, I don't eat muffins, but I'll eat it because it's free. That's like a bad habit we all humans have. It's like, oh, I haven't eaten this in 10 years. Let me eat it. And then you get sick. Oh, my vibration changed. Ugh. It happens a lot to all of us. But yeah, actually, Selena, the question is, actually, what do you want to do when you feel like fuck this shit? What do you really want to do? That's kind of, again, the inner manipulator that's inside of us is looking. It's like, oh, you cannot do what you want to do, so I'm going to come in and help you get that. I'm going to be your sidekick.
So I think you touched on something there as well. When you get in the fuck this shit mindset, another way to get out of it is basically meditation or clearing the mind and finding that center.
I'm going to pause there. We're not getting out of it. We're just
Okay,
looking at
let's
it,
stay in.
It's like, yeah, we're staying in it. It's like, oh, those kids, those scooters, that happened earlier, actually, out of nowhere. I'm like, fuck this shit. It's like they're just riding, they're in spring break. Like, I don't care. I love kids, but they're just like, kids, go to your rooms or something. Why are you riding your scooter right now? It's a cranky old duck, like, ugh. But I'm like, huh. I did be like, I shouldn't have these thoughts. I should be a nice, jolly duck. I should be, God loving, God fearing, recite some proverb and talk to a sponsor because I might drink because I said fuck this shit and blame myself. Like, you don't need to do all of that. You can be like, ugh. Let's go for another example, because this is like that's kind of like a speck, not necessarily the dark side of fuck this shit. I think I'm feeling more of a darker fuck this shit. Wait, let me feel it. Like, what's the darker version? It's like, I'm just talking about like soup versus like steak. How do you digest steak? Like, digesting soup, I'm sitting here, kids, huh? I just, look around the room. I'm still in my room. Cranky old woman, have a laugh, drink my soup, and it's gone. But then it's like, there's this steak now, and I have to chew this. And I know tomorrow's going to be the same effing day. Tomorrow's the same thing. I was like, ugh. I just want to get out of this planet. And I start thinking about all the things. And you think without thoughts, everybody. It's just like, it's this strange like movie that plays out in microseconds of all the times you had a negative thought of how life is just bleh and everything is just shit. So, actually, I'm trying to think of something more useful for everyone to get there. Actually, yeah, Don, when you feel that way, where do you feel it in your body? Where does it live?
When I get in the fuck this shit mood, it's usually in my stomach or right in my abdomen.
Ooh. Huh. Well, when I told you
yeah,
that, yeah. Lack of control.
There's a comment from Spinja. Fuck this shit is actually how we ended up in Alberta. Things were so bad for us in the province that we used to live in. We literally packed everything up and just left. We're like, no, we're done. fuck this shit, we're out.
You allowed it in. You sat in it. You didn't deny it. Say you should be better. Blah blah blah. We should accept this and all of that. This is like, guys. This is back in the 1700s. People barely had boats and transport, so they had to sit and dwell and cry and die. Hey, you guys have a car now. Just pack your shit and go. Like, you did a great job. You were brave. Like, it's not easy though. You know, we have means of transportation. It's really, really not easy. When I felt into that, the stomach, I felt spleen too. Fuck this shit equals nervousness and lack of control for you. Celine, if you want to
It
play that
does.
game too, put where. And guys, for everybody, when I say feel it in your body, I see the body as a house and all the organs are rooms. So, like, Selena, yeah, like, like, here you are. You're playing the game. Yeah, I love this. Okay, even if it's in my chest or in my throat. Let me feel into it. Yeah. Ooh, am I worthy? Why can't I get things? Am I worthy? Huh. Why isn't things working out for me? Am I unworthy? Am I worthless? A lot of shocks. I would say you've had a lot of shocks since November. I'm feeling into it. You had a lot of shocks. Huh. Ooh, am I worthy? Oh, Selena, if I could just rub your eyes. Sometimes we are so unworthy. We have hands and legs that work, and we're just being pieces of wood. We're just laying there without having a shower. You know, those days do happen. You know, we act so unworthy, and sometimes you just need that day. So, then you just clean yourself up the next day and be worthy and have a laugh about it. It's like, hey, what the hell did I do yesterday for? And I think the hardest part is worthiness again. If 90% of or 80% of people's behaviors are motivated by being superior, parents do that with their kids too. It's like, oh, you misrepresented me somehow by spitting or touching a worm, and now people think I'm a dirty mom and you're a dirty boy. Ugh. The kids feel unworthy, you know, when a kid was just being a kid. You know, like, so a lot of our
Yeah.
feelings stem from there. But Selena, when you look at your throat, what do you like to drink other than substances? What do you like to drink?
Yeah.
If
Me
you were
myself,
worthy,
I
what
drink.
would you drink? Yeah, go for it. Go for it, Don. Sorry, I
Um,
didn't mean to cut you off.
no, I usually stick to water, coffee, or THC drinks.
Here you go. You have adult money now. You can buy what you want. It's like when a 17-year-old gets their first, or third, fourth job and they have money and finally they feel safe to buy a game. That's a sign of worthiness. A lot of people have been dressing up. They work for the government all their lives that they forgot like who they are and what they like to do and how they feel worthy. Ooh, tea. I feel something more. I see you with a bicycle. I don't know why, Selena. It's like there's a version of you that likes to feel free and moving and loose. Maybe you need a bike.
That would be cool.
Yeah,
Get the
but
kiddos some bike ride.
yeah, yeah. I would have tea. It looks like the glands feel weary, and you're surrounded by strange people, Selena. So you could even write a book about them. That'll be funny.
um, so just let me find my spot here. Sorry.
Yeah, you're
I
good.
have
You're
a question.
spinning. Yeah.
I have a question that I ask a lot of people, and I just love your take on it. Do
Yeah.
you think our thoughts, energies affect or even create our reality? Like when you're in that fuck this mood, does everything kind of stay in that focus? And then when you get into the better mood, things seem to be better. Like, do you think the way we feel and the energy we output actually affects what's going on in our day to day lives?
I would say yes and no, and I'll expand on that. I would say it affects how people treat us. It affects how we create our what we attract in our reality, but does not necessarily affect our reality. So if you choose to be a piece of shit and stay at home and really not talk to anyone, will you get problems? No. Well, if somehow you have money saved up and you can pay your rent, you won't get evicted now. You're just gonna be a piece of shit unbothered, you know? It's like yeah, that's it. But if you go out in the world and you feel like a piece of shit, two things could happen. One, another, there's a version of you inside of you. It's like, I'm gonna guide you. I'm so done. And then you suddenly meet people you never thought of meeting. And then there's a version of you that's so desperate and you meet the wrong people. So there's always two ways. It's a duality. That's why it's a matter of choosing to shift out of duality into all unison understanding. It's kind of that. And guys, when I'm bringing those examples again, those all lived experiences that I've had. Yeah, I used to be so desperate. I wanted anyone that gave me attention. Like I would want to live with them even. Like, oh, yeah, I can be your roommate. I can sleep on this couch. I can do this. Great. And they were all the wrong people. But I allowed
Yeah.
that to happen. People will be like, that's victim blaming. It's like, no, when I realized I'm much more worthy than that, than people just taking advantage of me, I shifted things around. But to shift things around is to see how I'm responsible in that situation. I wasn't responsible for the pain that, afflicted on me, but I'm responsible for not honoring myself. So I have to give them their
That makes
responsibility and give myself a responsibility. And then I go and have coffee or tea and cry. See? Yeah.
I I'll even say it as a guy. I think one of the most healing things is having a good cry, and I'll watch specific movies just to make myself do it. Um, but
Ooh.
in what advice would you give listeners trying or viewers trying to get rid of their old programmings and traumas that cause these reactions and the things that we tend to just keep repeating?
I just want to commend everyone to even it's for those that even have the question of I want to work on my traumas, I want to get rid of them. Because you'll be surprised. A lot of people don't. A lot of people be like, my arm hurts. And then if you be like, hey, your arm has been hurting for 15 years, you have pain on and off. I think there's something more. No, my arm hurts. My body is broken. It's like, oh, I feel this and that. So I guess I really want to commend it. It's not for the faint heart, everyone. Because a lot of us, I feel, especially in March, we want to save our loved ones, but they're not, at our frequency at all. And they don't want to reach that. And I see it because, including myself, like we've been desperate for help without realizing how desperate we were for connection and help and love. So we want to give that back. It's like, well, if I could give a shortcut to somebody or do something to somebody I love, and it's really tricky. So I would say for those that just to go back to your question, if you're first off, if you're isolated, extreme, I'm talking about isolated where your everyday life is just taking care of family members and you have to go to work, you cannot quit, you cannot move, and that's a real reality for everyone. So I want to honor that. Find a Buddhist community or a satsang. Look for that and just allow yourself to sit and be. You don't need to talk to anyone. You'll notice a shift in your reality. Just sit there in that frequency. So it's kind of like you need to find your own candle, your own light. And this is specifically for people if there's really nobody around you and you don't go outside and it's been however days or years. And when we don't interact with people, fear builds up. So it becomes even harder every day. And I want to honor that. It is hard. It's very hard. So that's one of the first steps. Just go to a meditation center. And I mean, preferably a satsang or a Buddhist community. Some places, again, I haven't done that, but I guess there are some meditation classes per se, but you know how some people go in because they want to build on their ego, which there's nothing wrong with that. That's not a reality. Some people are like, I want to meditate to create more of my business, like whatever, that's okay. No big deal, but especially when you're coming in with a weary heart and everything is heavy and you feel torn apart, just going into a satsang and just being in that space of people that have surrendered into a different reality, I say go for that.
I think that's really good advice, and I'm just gonna
I think there's some online
scroll for.
communities too. Ideally leaving the house, but for those that, if there's one, let's say an hour away, and that's just impossible, after a long day, there are online communities. Actually, I forgot where I've seen this. You can even pay for a 3-day silent meditation. You just have to log in and log out, and you'll be live with people that are doing a silent 3-day meditation, talking to nobody.
That is a very interesting concept.
Yeah,
And
it's very
be-
healing.
before before we get too far away, you were talking about how it's everywhere. I drive for a living, and I was actually dumbfounded. There was a car advertisement, like a car dealership advertisement, talking about meditating and manifesting more new cars, and I was like,
Mm.
it is actually fallen partly into mainstream, like this terminology, and I'm like, okay, does this mean that everybody's going to understand it soon? Like they're talking about manifestation in a car commercial on my local radio show. And I was just like, is this really happening? Is the community becoming aware and widened?
I'm gonna be. I feel evil saying this. It's like a B
Oh,
grade movie and a C grade movie. There's like a B grade manifestation, C grade manifestation. It's like let's trickle a C grade manifestation for people. They don't know what's out there. They don't know there's something beyond of like revitalizing a cellular input in the body. So I would say, yeah, it's been. I feel like I've seen this around in LA. It's like, oh, join a group of something women, manifest next business idea, blah blah blah, and somebody already has a family member that wants to give them 20,000, but they're too afraid to use that 20,000, so they go to meditation, and boom, they have a new flower shop or something. But it's not the real manifestation per se, it's kind of just going into a group where people. So that's what I mean when I say ideally a Buddhist center of satsang does not. It's yes, here's the word. It came to my head. The word is detachment. Going into a place with the intention of detachment. Yes, we're coming in to let go of our traumas, but we are detached of how that looks like and what the outcome is. We're just coming in with attention, with intention, and attention too. We're just going to pay attention to all of that. How will the healing happen? We don't know. Sometimes we'll go to a meditation, come out, and then we meet our loved ones, our soulmates, and we don't even know it. But the act of doing that is sitting in that intention brought us to that place. I think that's the hardest part. People are trying to be in control, and like if we once we can create a bird, like yes, I'm a duck, but I'm not haven't been created in vitro. But once a human can create a human in vitro, just like that, materialize without using another human being, or just another animal, just like that, we not necessarily have that ability. So we know that there's something working beyond us. We are more than just a human flesh. And I think that's the hardest part. Like people are creating all these classes, which is great, but they're speaking from the perspective of being bound by a 3D body. And it's hard. Like, guys, it's hard. Like miracles, just understanding miracles is really hard. Hmm.
you actually just gave me a question off the top of my head there.
Yeah.
Do you think humans are receiving a type of information from a higher intelligence? My basic thought on it, and it's just my understanding right now, is I view myself as a pilot in a biological vessel. I
Hmm.
know that the entirety of me is not in this reality, but this is the part of me that can talk to Psychic Duck, have a lovely wife, and a job driving a septic truck. But there's far more to me, and that's the information and where I'm receiving it from. Is that kind of like higher self and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I love the way you explain things. Yeah, that's very real and honest and very alive. It's like you honored the body, you honored that there's a pilot and a co-pilot, and there are guides too. And sometimes we never really know what radio station we have or what's the station called and where's the station coming from. Like we'll just hear it, or as you're coming back from sleep, it's like you'll see pictures or some voices, and you cannot decipher what they're saying, but you can hear it. That's the sensory system is very alive. Just acknowledging there's something more alive than this will bring you to something that is more alive than this. And that's the beauty of it all, and also the hardest part.
I think
Mm,
that's true too.
mm,
Um, we often hear people talk about shadow work.
mm.
Would you be able to explain what it is and why, and if it's important?
I'm gonna butcher the whole concept up, guys. I'm so sorry. I call it going deep, and I feel like shadow works allows people that have been guilt ridden all their life not to be guilt ridden. So I think it's a good start in the human lens. It's a good start to look at your sins, without somebody telling you you're going to go to hell. So it's like, oh, I'm doing shadow work instead of saying, oh, I'm going to go repent, or it sounds heavy. It's like, oh, no, I have to go repent for something. So I say, I'm going to do shadow work. It's like, oh, that's cool. It's just like a soup. I'm going to drink soup instead of digest steak. I just see it as that. But I feel like once you go deep, and
Yeah.
again, for those that really go deep, you're going to meet the monsters, the worms, the leeches, the parasites, the worms. You might meet a few friends that were there. Your stuffed animal might be living there. It might show up. That did happen to me in the trauma release. I had the drawing that I did that I don't remember doing show up. There's so much in mud. Yeah, so shadow work, well, yeah, we're always going to be doing shadow work, I'm going to say. But I know for some people, having something sharper and more defined is helpful. But I kind of want to challenge everybody here. Who are you trying to be sharper and more defined for? A lot of people are, sometimes you might release energy and then you find yourself, oh, I need to explain that. Why? Why do you need to explain that? And if you give yourself the intention, oh, I want to explain that to other versions of me so they can heal themselves, you might even get a process that even more of a shortcut than the process you've been through. But a lot of people get stuck and they're like, I need to explain myself. And that goes back to a wounded self of how you always had to explain yourself to defend yourself. And I think a lot of people are stuck in a cycle like that. Oh, I'm doing shadow work again. I'm doing shadow work again. It's like, oh, you feel like you still need to defend yourself. Defend yourself from yourself because you're cutting yourself into tiny pieces. Or a lot of times it's the inner manipulator showing up again in your system. But people are too afraid to call it that, so instead they go through a series of prompts. And, when you do it with a group of other people, you feel less guilty. And the sins feel less heavy because somebody else is sinning next to you and all that. So I feel like for everybody, it's a choice. Like, do what feels right. Does it feel right for you to do shadow work prompts? If that, why not? You're one step ahead from your mother or father if you're choosing to do that. For some people, if you just want to sit in silence for 2-3 days and let everything erupt and cry and all that, that's you sitting in the shadow and the light. You're doing that. For some people, that's even better. Like, I'm more of a nonverbal person. I prefer things to just come through, and sometimes it takes me 1 month later, boom, things. I feel like, guys, I'm explaining things from 2012, a lot of it. I didn't even realize I had all of that in me. So it's like 10-15 years later, something. I can't do math. So just trusting the process. If you're meant to say it, you're going to know when to say it. Yeah.
And that's why I love these conversations, because I feel like I'm about a decade behind on all of this stuff because it's literally all new. And that's why I find these conversations so useful, because the entire concept and reason I started a show was I had so many questions when my spiritual awakening started. It was the only way I could figure out how to ask the people who knew the answers was to start a podcast. And it's been, it's given me endless value for the idea. Just a second ago, you were talking about
responsibilities seem to help you get into your. Like, go for the next question.
Oh, yeah. You were saying a second ago about sending messages to your other self. How does that work? What does that process look like? And I'm sorry, I hate that 2-second delay because I always end up stepping on you, and I apologize because.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. Let's feel into it. It's other messages to yourself. That can happen in so many different ways. Sometimes you'll just space out after a long day, and then you'll hear something. Oh, you need to turn on the air conditioner. Oh, you need to turn on the heater. That's a message from other versions of you. Somebody's telling you, hey, somebody's noticing for you. You're not noticing that you're feeling cold. You're just sitting there spacing out, and someone's like, hey, turn on the heater. It's like you'll hear it in your head. It's not necessarily you thought about it. Or sometimes you thought about it when it's like you have a process like, oh yeah, let me just go and I feel cold. I need to do this, but there's no I statement in there. So it's just like something's telling you, hey, turn on the heater, take care of yourself. Somebody's taking care of you. It's I see your guys as the inner beloved or other versions of yourself. We have an inner beloved and they're watching out for us. There are other ways. Sometimes just making space for them to come through. Like some people, it's through art and they just scribble. They have a notebook and it's just scribbles, and one day the pictures started to show up. And that's my experience, guys. I drew cockroaches, I drew weird bugs, I drew weird monsters, and the things started coming up slowly. That's true. I'm not joking about it. One day I'll show you. It's been crazy. Yeah.
That would be awesome. And now that I have StreamYard, I can even share it.
Yeah.
Um,
So
how
whatever
should
mode.
people get more? Oh, go ahead.
I guess I just want to say there's no wrong or right way. It's a matter of what feels right for you. Like like for some people, for some women, it's putting on their mascara. They start talking to other versions of themselves. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a meditative state for some people, putting makeup on, or like knitting is another one. Yeah.
How would you recommend people get in better contact with their other versions of themselves or their guides? Like, is it simply through meditation and being one with yourself, or is there practices and principles that people should be following? Like,
Hmm. I'm trying to feel into what the audience really needs at the moment, because there's many directions you can go with that. For some people, they'll go to one, like they'll have a psychedelic experience and suddenly they're connected. Some people like that. Like I've even heard with cocaine, somebody just boom, that's how they, became more normal. Sounds crazy,
yeah.
So there's so many, different ways to do that. But I feel like the main thing is notice where you're abandoning yourself and don't abandon yourself. That's the first step. Because a lot of us, when we feel lost and scared, we've abandoned ourselves. We don't even know who we are. And we need to take those little steps, and that little step could even be like buying a new shower curtain. It's like, oh, there's mold in there and I'm just bathing in every day. Is that like taking care of yourself? No, it's not. It starts with the simplest things. And I've seen people really heal by meeting other people. So again, it really depends. Some people have extroverted intuition. And I'll say those that have extroverted intuitions, you'll see them working in banks, in health insurances. It's like they know what people need somehow and they don't know how they know it. They think they're just good at their job. They're good at helping, things materialize on earth. There are people that have extroverted intuition, like gamblers, and I say for those people, they need to be around people more. They do better when they're doing things in a group than by themselves. So it's like start with the group first and then go inwards. For some people, they need to go inwards and then find a trusted friend. There's all different ways to do that. But I know there's different recipes that people like to follow. I say like choose the right recipe, and some days you'll allow a longer process. Some days you just don't have time. So the best thing you can do is, turn on the car and play a song, and in the middle of the song you turn it off and, just give gratitude to everything around you and just feel into things. Yeah.
You just said a key word there, and it's another question I'd love to ask you. How important is gratitude in our day-to-day lives?
Ooh, and this is more, I'm going to speak more from a personal perspective. I just honor life, and I'm just so grateful for being here sometimes. And I'm so grateful. I feel like I've been lucky in this lifetime. And I always ask, all those around me to help me give that back to others. That's just me. So I'm just grateful, like, whoa, I live in a nice place and there's all these trees and there are, raccoons with big bum bums and they look well fed. Like, I'm so happy for them. Like just all these little things. And I know when I look back in the past, I remember a shaman told me to make a gratitude list every single day. I do remember that. And at that time I did. I was angry. I was like, and I would put my head on the wall and hear cockroaches and I'd be like, I hate being sober. Like I was in that state. So I get it. For somebody that's in that state, it's really hard to just like, give gratitude for your body is swelling and you don't know what else to do. And nobody understands, everyone tells you you're doing great when you're not doing great. It doesn't feel good. If it's not time to give gratitude. But I feel like it rises in
Yeah.
you somehow. There's going to be a day it just rises in you. And I do that every day, actually, the practice. I'll just look around me and I just feel so lucky. Like I feel like, and I do. I feel like I really got lucky in this lifetime. Like I'm luckier than my mom, and I wish her the best, but I've really experienced luck just to be who I am and to know what I know and give how I can give. Like it's just, yeah. I don't. Sometimes I wonder, again, this is old world. Like, what did I deserve to know and be where I am right now? Because there are people, whether it's your age or my age, they're still suffering. They're sick. They're not healing, and they're stuck in old ways. Like I know people, like they're still stuck in ways I was in 2011 and 12, and I just want to give them a hand and pull them out. But they have their time too, and I'll just be there and be honest, and that's how you keep an open throat chakra, guys. You just be honest and say things, as you say, with most loving kindness as possible. Because sometimes you could be the only person in their life that does that. Mm.
I think that's true. And it's strange that you bring that up because I just had an experience where somebody who I haven't even thought of in like probably 20 years commented on something of mine in social media.
Oh,
And I actually had to like take myself back to that version of reality because I'm so far from the person I was when I knew that person.
yeah.
I was like, that's not even me anymore. Like, I wouldn't even be able to talk to her because they know nothing about this variation or version of who I
Mhm.
have become.
That's very real. It's very, very real. I feel like everybody has those moments too. It's like people, they're nice people, but it's like, whoa, like it's been years. Every cell has changed. How do I talk to you now? I don't know. And yeah, it's tricky. And I feel like we're all learning how to build our language without abandoning ourselves. Real. I feel like that's everybody's hidden battle, and that's why people get stuck or depressed or fatigued. It's like, how do we be ourselves with, we don't want to censor ourselves anymore. We've had that. You get blood pressure, you get diabetes, you get all sorts of things when you censor yourself. Yeah.
I think that's true. And that was something that I received after my health issues. I received a session from Matt Morney because I had some gallbladder issues last year, and I actually ended up having to get it removed. And he gave me a
Mm,
healing session, and it was something that he had spoke to me about is like there was a lot of repressed things. Like some of it was my diet, but a lot of it was things that I was holding in and things that I hadn't processed. And your emotional situation does actually have an effect on your physical body. And I think that's something that a lot of people aren't aware enough of. Like, I had to get an organ removed because I didn't pay attention to it. Please, like,
and don't blame yourself, because that's not, nobody. If your parents knew all that information, would you be where you are? You know,
that's true too.
yeah. So I feel like for a lot of us, we're the first people to like know and uncover all of that. So everything is still a shock, a surprise. We're still integrating it. It's not easy. If you wanna take it from the South or North Korean perspective, it takes 3 generations to be fully brainwashed. So when one
Hmm.
generation has done something, they make sure 3 generations gets punished for it. And that's how they fully forget themselves. So can you imagine the highest version of yourself will be manifested in 3 generations if you choose to?
Huh,
Yeah.
that is a very deep concept.
Yeah.
Um, I want to ask a question. Do you think we had more senses and abilities? And if so, do you think we can reactivate them? Because, like, of course, your name is Psychic Duck. That
Yeah.
alludes to being having some type of psychic connection, but there's also other clairaudient and all of these wonderful abilities. And I don't like the terminology gifts because
Mm.
to me, I think something we used to naturally be able to do that have been slowly depleted and stripped away. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
No, but it's true. It's like, imagine people that live without electricity. They can see the dark differently than somebody that turns on their light in the dark. So it's kind of like you
Hmm.
can train yourself in different ways. There are different trainings and different schools of thoughts you can try, and that's a real thing. I feel like I'm the cranky old duck. I think secretly, I don't know if I show that version of me. I'm a cranky old duck, kids riding their scooters and all that. I prefer just to sit there and let things melt or thaw. That's just my method. A lot of silence. I really like that. That's just my way to regulate and open up the receptors in my body. It's like I imagine my cells like flowers, just opening up, bursting, and then closing in when they close. And just watching things in awe. That's just me. But I know there's different ways, and I'm sure there's a shortcut, to certain things. I feel like looking at different ancient teachings, and sometimes you never know. Maybe your great grandfather looked at this ancient teaching, and but was like, I need to go back and cut wood. I don't have time for this shit. Like, and then suddenly generations later, you're like, oh, I want to do this now. I can. Like I kind of can on a Saturday morning. Wake up a bit early. I can make time for that. 10 minutes doesn't hurt. Like I guess our ancestors didn't really have that. We're kind of lucky that we do. It's like I can tune into this channel. There's gonna be a recording of like there's gonna be a live stream. I can do this with them. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
I think that's a good way to do it too. And I just want to say you've mentioned a couple of times that you're a cranky old duck. I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell you the only thing that's stopping me from being the bitchy old man on my front porch
Yeah.
is a lack of kids riding by on bikes and a front porch. So I'm kind of in the same boat. I try to be as nice as possible, but I still have my moments, and it's something I've brought up before on shows. Is like a lot of the people that are coming into this new spiritual understanding are people that come from very broken pasts. Like I used the joking analogy, a lot of us were street before we were spiritual. And it seems to,
Yeah. It's
and
really
I don't, it's, a, I don't think it's a whole group of us running for some type of retribution. I think it's just this beautiful universal understanding that's coming to the broken people of this existence.
yeah. I feel like we're the first generation, or for those that have been in that position to say, I've had enough. I know I deserve more. I know there is more. I want to. It's kind of like a spiritual hunger. That's what they say. It's really a spiritual hunger. It's like you tap into that all of a sudden. You are brave enough to tap into that, and not many people are brave enough. A lot of people, and I've met them. They're too afraid to go against the church, and it's really sad. It's like, oh, if I have negative thoughts, maybe my mom will get hurt. I've heard that many times, guys. And it's really saddens me. It's people hide those feelings. They don't really talk about it. Oh, because, and I've seen this before. Oh, because I decided to marry this person, my mom now has pain, and my mom says, yes, my pain is because of you. You didn't marry this person and that person. There's this ridiculousness still happening, and we're like, what? But I get people asking for readings, and they're like, is this true? And they really, really believe it. It's like, oh, am I hurting my mom because I married this person, or I left home, or I did this? And I'm like, no, she's choose. This is her own trying to say that you undervalued my opinions and you did what you want. And there's and we can that's a whole different conversation. But I feel like just for all of us, it's like we chose love. End of the day, we chose more. And sometimes, whether it's plants that opened up our receptors, or I feel like we have agreements. It's like at this time you're going to be struck with lightning. I feel like I've had that, definitely. It's like I just got struck somehow, and now here are your responsibilities. You can't read. It's like you have a to-do list that you can't read. You're like, what? It's like free will. You create your own to-do list, and somehow it's like there's this like invisible pen, and whatever you create, like this channel, it's like a part of that to-do list that you don't realize. It's crazy stuff.
I think that's absolutely right. And that's something, again, I hate to keep bringing her up. Spinja and I have talked about is like, can I have a peek at the list? Like I just wanted, like, I get that I agreed to come here and I get that I agreed to have some experiences, but like, could I have the Coles notes on what the hell is going on here? Right? That would be a huge help.
Well, we all want that, even me. Like I'm not gonna deny that. I'm not gonna deny that, but I feel like that's these moments is where we just need to make hot chocolate or something. It's like, are you gonna dwell, or are you gonna just, just like our ancestors, just gather around, burn some fire, have some wood and drink some tea, and suddenly something will show up, or it's like, oh, I want to see this channel and what they're doing, and then suddenly it's like something sparks in me. It's like a weird memory. I feel like a lot of us are catching up with things that have already happened. I don't know if you've had those experiences. You feel like I'm doing something that already happened right now.
I I seriously like I feel like something is about to happen in our
Hmm.
lives because like we joke around and it we're in a stage and I don't think it's a stuck state. It's more like I
Hmm.
am waiting for a bus. Like what is about to happen? Like my life almost seems too mundane. Like it's there's
Yeah.
all of these things in the air. It's like what's going to happen? Like why am I still sitting here? Something should have happened. Like this, and this. And it's like, but nothing is happening.
But
And
imagine
it's
you're
not that we're
creating a movie. Yeah, but imagine
pardon?
creating a imagine you're creating a movie of what the person does while they're waiting for the bus.
Interesting. And that actually leads to one of the last questions I wanted to ask you is do you think we are creator beings basically on autopilot? Because like we a
I love
lot of
that.
us believe creator beings, but I also think there's a lot of us, and I got the term from Spinja, we're just on autopilot because we've accepted this mundane reality. So like we just create reality as we go, but it's nothing that's actually for us.
Whoa, I love the way you said that. Whoa, spooky. It's yes, 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 definitely. I am. You know, it is a spooky concept. You think about it. It's like there's a channel, or see it as like a battery that's always charging and always creating and always emitting something. And there's all these branches, and it's like one day you're walking, you get a memory from 10 years ago, and then the next thing you remember you need to call somebody, and then the next thing is like your bladder is like, go to the bathroom. You've been driving for 4 hours right now. Like, yeah, it's this channel that's constantly like rolling.
I
But that's
I
the
totally
beauty
agree with
of it
that.
all. And I feel like we're all learning how to tap into that. It's like if there's something that's always creating, we're just in a place where how to tap into that faster than we did yesterday. And I feel like every day we're getting faster in a different way. It's like now you can process your emotions faster than 2 years ago. Yeah, definitely for me, I gotta say. Definitely for me. Did I intend
I
to
I
process
think
things faster? No, I just wanted to understand. I feel like similar to you.
I I agree, and that seems to be
Hmm.
happening to a lot of us, especially in this community. It's like we're lighting up and we're understanding things faster. Like in my job, I had a 6 hour and 20-minute run the other day, but my coworker, who is a very stringent older guy, he's like, I need your help. And for him to reach out like that, I was like, shit, okay, I need to help Daryl today. I
Hmm.
ended up finishing in 4 hours and 5 minutes when it was clocked at six
Ooh.
hours and 20 minutes. Right. And
Whoa.
there's just this thing like when you get into a state of mind or being that you pass through time with less resistance. And it's not that you're killing time,
Yeah.
it's things don't seem as difficult.
Yeah, it's like an upgrade. It's like just a different type of being. I feel like, and I've seen this in a lot of people that come through. Like some people are very identified with just the body. And again, that's just their journey. And I feel like as we identify with what's more and as we feel connected with what's more, we start seeing things more. I gotta say, like, as moving around, now I live more in nature. It's like I notice when lizards are running. I would say, like, 4 years ago, I wouldn't notice all these lizards that are running around. I have now a lot big belly because of it. Just kidding. But like I can notice all these different things. Like I would say 4 years ago, I would notice one lizard, but now I can see like there's four lizards racing across, the paveway. So it's a matter of like just somehow I feel like I'll have better words next time, but it's like something is just more open. Do you know those kids that give bombastic side eyes?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I feel like we're able to do that right now. We have this bombastic side eye that we can give around in our surroundings, whereas before we looked down, we had low self worth. We're looking down like this, or we're looking up because we're like anxious, like ooh. But now it's like we can look up, down, on the side, bombastic side eye, don't care side eye. Like we're evolving, everyone.
I I really think that's true. I think there's something in this reality going on that we are, I don't have a better word for it. We are evolving,
Yeah.
and I think you're absolutely.
And we're the first
Um,
ones to evolve. I really want to emphasize that. It's very lonely and isolating. It's like out of a whole family system. Like imagine going to a gathering and it's like, oh, I'm being myself. It's weird. I avoid them, but I'm trying not to avoid them. That's
yeah,
kind of part of my journey too. Is I want to give more love to people around me, and I feel like just being brave and showing, look, I created my own life, and look how great I feel. People will be drawn to that. Like, oh, what did this person do? They'll secretly be, you know.
yeah. And on that note, it's actually in my day job, my office manager is kind of into this stuff. And I was like, hey, this is cool. I can sort of
Ooh,
be myself. And another employee who is into podcasts and all of this paranormal just showed up in my field. And I'm like, wow, I can now
whoa.
talk to one of the employees of this small company I work for about the things that I'm interested in. And I don't know if I'm creating that reality, but it's absolutely wonderful because it allows me to be me in a place where I used to not be able to be me.
And you did not like you didn't know these people existed when you got this job. You got this job because you have to. This is how circumstances happen. I have to do this thing. You just pray that I chose the right place. You followed your gut. You followed your instincts. Yeah, this place feels safe, and boom, here you are. You have people that are you have a similar residence. It's like a. I see it as like a bolt of lightning, and you're all on that bolt, but everyone's taking it to a different direction. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. Um, you mentioned earlier that you give readings. Now, do you want to tell everybody before we take off where they can get a hold of you and get a reading? Because I've gotten them off of the typical skeptic, and you were pretty freaking accurate. I don't give out many details of my personal life, but yeah, you were very accurate. So I would absolutely tell somebody that is worthwhile to get a reading. So how would they go about doing that?
Well, you guys can find me at psychicduck5d@gmail.com, and I'll use my little hands to type back. Beep, 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 like that, and we can make a time to connect. That's how you find me, guys. And I think I know I'm appearing at Typical Skeptic again at the end of each month, so you'll find me there too. And I'll be appearing here whenever it feels right for Don Rogers too. Now I have two friends.
That is
Yay.
awesome. And
Yay.
I love having you on because you're absolutely wonderful and always full of great information. I want to thank a lot of our mutual friends that have stopped by. There's Selena, there's Jason, there's Aurora, there's, of course, my lovely interdimensional exit buddy, Canadian Spinja. Rocks Girl was here. Like, there has been some lovely people in the audience saying some lovely things about you, me, and all of us. So, thank you guys for chiming in and being a part of the show as well. I do appreciate you guys, and I want you to know that. And of course, I almost forgot the wonderful Matt Marnian was in the audience as well, who like I was saying earlier, he had gifted me a healing session, and within a very brief time, I was feeling much better.
Hmm.
Um, so again, I want to thank you, and I'm gonna ask everybody. I'm gonna do things a little differently tonight. Uh, Chris Matthew, the leader of Forbidden Knowledge Network, recently released his second documentary, Doors of Perception, the Forbidden Documentary, and I'm going to run the trailer of that right after this show. Something I don't normally do, but I've already watched it, and it is phenomenal.
Yay.
Highly suggest you look it up, go get a copy, rent it. You can rent it or buy it. Um, but you should absolutely check it out. And like I always say, after you watch the trailer, if you can go outside, please do, because it's a lot better than being in front of a screen. Thank you all.
Love you.
The nature of this experience seems to always be just beyond the reach of our science, technology, and consciousness collective.
There's layers upon layers upon layers.
It does add such an element of mystery to this place.
Why are we here?
We're getting closer to the truth now.
There's too many people experiencing profound interactions with conscious entities.
I'm focused on the non-human intelligence contact phenomenon in dreams. Dreams involve interactions with real entities.
People are waking up paralyzed. They're sensing or seeing something very evil in the room.
I have experienced sleep paralysis. Shadow people start to appear.
I was taken from my earliest memories by non-human alien entities. More and more people are wanting to talk about these things.
A ufologist would say, well, that's obviously an extraterrestrial. And a paranormal researcher would say, well, that's a ghost. Well, what if it's all of those things and none of those things? The entities, the intelligence that were just beyond our understanding.
There seems to be something a little extra that can take forms of anything.
I can't believe what I've seen, but it continues on a daily basis. We're definitely not alone. UFOs, UAPs, portals opening up.
I've lived with all this supernatural stuff. You kind of grow up with that around here. You see a lot of strange things. I don't like to talk about skinwalkers too much.
I had an experience with a skinwalker entity.
People, they would say they would transform into bears, into wolves. There's these bad things that occur. Ghosts, UFOs, and all types of things coming from somewhere.
Our beliefs, our emotions, and our fears all seem to heavily influence the nature of these experiences.
There is so much more that we just don't have time for in this busy, loud, noisy life that we lead.
All of this is planned. Everything is synchronicity.
There's so much more out there. We really are picking up such a small percentage of the electromagnetic spectrum.
The world is an amazing place.
It feels like we're gods in training.